Hello, my name is Antoine. Welcome to my Dharma path. We're reading the second chapter of the Lotus Sutra. This is the Burton Watson translation. I'm on page 30. I'm going to read and stop in some places. Thank you for listening. At that time, the world-honored one said to Śrāvaka, 3 times you have stated your earnest request. How can I do other than preach? Now you must listen attentively and carefully ponder. For your sake, I will now analyze and explain the matter. When he had spoken these words, there were some 5,000 monks, nuns, laymen, and lay women in this assembly, who immediately rose from their seats, bowed to the Buddha, and withdrew. I'll stop there. In the first line, I read the world-honored one. This is the Buddha, or Shakyamuni Buddha, they're talking about. And the place is Rajkri, India. This is either 25 or 2,600 years ago, when the world-honored one, or Shakyamuni Buddha, taught the Lotus Sutra. I'll go on reading. What was the reason for this? These persons had roots of guilt that were deep and manifold, and in addition, they were overbearingly arrogant. What they had not attained, they supposed they had attained. What they had not understood, they supposed they had understood. And because they had this feeling, they did not remain where they were. So they think they know what they knew, but they didn't know. They hadn't learned yet. The world-honored one was silent and did not try to detain them. At this time the Buddha said to Śrāvaka, now this assembly of mine is free of branches and leaves, made up solely of the steadfast and truthful. Śrāvaka, it is well that these persons of overbearing arrogance have withdrawn. Now listen carefully, and I will preach for you. Śrāvaka said, so be it. World-honored one, we are eager to listen. The Buddha said to Śrāvaka, a wonderful law such as this is preached by the Buddhas. The dust come once at certain times, but like the blooming of the umbadara, such times come very seldom. Śrāvaka, you and the others must believe the words that the Buddhas preach are not empty or false. Okay, so we're comparing it to the blooming of the Udambara. They like to use a lot of references to plants or trees in the Lotus Sutra. I'm going to open up Copilot and ask him to explain, or it, better yet, it. One moment, please. Okay. Here's the question.
So, what's new, Antoine?
Can you explain the blooming of the Udambara as in the Lotus Sutra?
The Udambara flower in the Lotus Sutra is a rare symbol of miraculous events. It's said to bloom once every 3,000 years, symbolizing the rarity and profound nature of encountering the Dharma. In the teachings, it's a metaphor for the preciousness and rarity of true enlightenment. Have you come across this flower in your readings?
Only in the Lotus Sutra. Okay, so as you're listening to the Dharma, which the Sutra is Dharma, you replace karma with Dharma. You've learned of karma before, if you learned about karma. The way to correct your karma is through studying the Dharma. And when you meet Dharma, it's rare. You can go from lifetime to lifetime, or even world after world, and never meet the Dharma. Page 31. Śrāvaka, the Buddhas preach the law in accordance with what is appropriate, but the meaning is difficult to understand. Why is this? Because we employ countless expedient means, discussing causes and conditions, and using words of simile and parable to expound the teachings. This law is not something that can be understood through pondering or analysis. Only those who are Buddhas can understand it. Why is this? Because the Buddhas, the world-honored ones, appear in the world for one great reason alone. Sariputra, what does it mean to say that the Buddhas, the world-honored ones, appear in the world for one great reason alone? The Buddhas, the world-honored ones, wish to open the door of Buddha wisdom to all living beings to allow them to attain purity. This is why they appear in the world. They wish to show the Buddha wisdom to living beings, and therefore they appear in the world. They wish to cause living beings to awaken to the Buddha wisdom, and therefore they appear in the world. They wish to induce living beings to enter the path of Buddha wisdom, and therefore they appear in the world. Shariputra, this is the one great reason for which the Buddhas appear in the world. The Buddha said to Shariputra, the Buddhas, the thus come ones, simply teach and convert the Bodhisattvas. All the things they do are at all times done for this one purpose. They simply wish to show the Buddha wisdom to living beings and enlighten them to it. Sariputra, the thus come ones have only a single Buddha vehicle, which they employ in order to preach the law to living beings. They do not have any other vehicle, a second or a third one. Sariputra, the law preached by all Buddhas of the 10 directions is the same as this. Sariputra, the Buddhas of the past used countless numbers of expedient means, various causes and conditions, and words of simile and parable in order to expound the doctrines for the sake of living beings. These doctrines are all for the sake of the one Buddha vehicle. These living beings, by listening to the doctrines of the Buddhas, are all eventually able to attain wisdom, embracing all species. Okay, the Buddha way, or the law. When we say the law, what are we talking about? I could say that there are universal laws, but what does the Lotus Sutra mean? What does the Lotus Sutra mean when it's talking about the law?
In the Lotus Sutra, the law refers to the ultimate truth or Dharma, embodying the profound teachings of Buddha. It's the universal law that governs all phenomena, leading beings to enlightenment. The sutra emphasizes that understanding and practicing the law leads to liberation and the realization of one's true nature. Quite intriguing, don't you think?
Maybe. Thank you for explaining. Okay, I'm going to go on reading. Sariputra, when the Buddhas of the future make their appearance in the world, they too will use countless numbers of expedient means, various causes and conditions, and words of simile and parable in order to expound the doctrines for the sake of living beings. These doctrines will be for the sake of the one Buddha vehicle, and these living beings, by listening to the doctrines of the Buddhas, will all eventually be able to attain wisdom, embracing all species. Sariputra, the Buddhas, the world-honored ones who exist at present in the countless hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, and millions of Buddha lands in the 10 directions, benefit and bring peace and happiness to living beings in large measure. These Buddhas, too, use countless numbers of expedient means, various causes and conditions, and words of simile and parable in order to expound the doctrines for the sake of living beings. These doctrines are all for the sake of the one Buddha vehicle, and these living beings, by listening to the doctrines of the Buddhas, are all eventually able to attain wisdom, embracing all species. Sariputra, these Buddhas simply teach and convert the Bodhisattvas. They do it because they wish to show the Buddha wisdom to living beings. They do it because they wish to use the Buddha wisdom to enlighten living beings. They do it because they wish to cause living beings to enter the path of Buddha wisdom. Shariputra, I too will now do the same. I know that living beings have various desires attachments that are deeply implanted in their minds. Taking cognizance of this basic nature of theirs, I will therefore use various causes and conditions, words of simile and parable, and the power of expedient means, and expound the law for them. Sariputra, I do this so that all of them may attain the one Buddha vehicle and wisdom embracing all species. Sariputra, in the words of the 10 directions, in the worlds of the 10 directions, there are not 2 vehicles, much less 3. Sariputra, the Buddhas appear in evil worlds of 5 impurities. These are the so-called impurity of the age, impurity of desire, impurity of living beings, impurity of view, and impurity of lifespan. Sariputra, when the age is pure and the times are chaotic, then the defilements of living beings are grave. They are greedy and jealous and put down roots that are not good. Because of this, the Buddhas, utilizing the power of expedient means, apply distinctions to the one Buddha vehicle and preach as though it were 3. Sariputra, if any of my disciples should claim to be an arhat or a Pratyekabuddha, and yet does not heed or understand the Buddhas, the thus come ones, simply teach and convert the Bodhisattvas, then he is no disciple of mine. He is no arhat or Pratyekabuddha. Again, Sariputra, if these should be monks or nuns who claim that they have already attained the status of arhat, that this is their last incarnation, that they have reached the final nirvana, and that therefore have no further intention of seeking anuttara samyak sambodhi, then you should understand that such as these are all persons of overbearing arrogance. So that you have nirvana, which is one level of enlightenment, and then anuttara samyak sambodhi is another level of enlightenment. It's higher than nirvana. Why do I say this? Because if there are monks who have truly attained the status of arhat, then it would be unthinkable that they should fail to believe this law. The only exception would be in a time after a Buddha had passed away, when there was no Buddha present in the world. Why is this? Because after the Buddha has passed away, it will be difficult to find anyone who can embrace, recite, and understand the meaning of sutras such as this. But if persons at the time encounter another Buddha, then they will attain decisive understanding with regard to this law. Sariputra, you and the other should with a single mind believe and accept the words of the Buddha. The words of the Buddhas, the thus come ones, are not empty or false. There is no other vehicle. There is only the one Buddha vehicle. Maybe we should understand more about what is meant by different vehicles. Let's see.
Hey there, Antoine. What's new?
The second chapter of the Lotus Sutra, what are we talking about vehicles for?
In the second chapter of the Lotus Sutra, vehicles symbolize different paths to enlightenment. There are 3 vehicles, the Śrāvaka, Pratyekabuddha, and Bodhisattva paths. These represent stages of spiritual development. Ultimately, the sutra reveals these are just skillful means, leading to the one Buddha vehicle, the universal path to enlightenment. Intriguing, right?
Explain the different paths, Bodhisattva, Pratyeka, and Śrāvaka.
Sure thing. So, Śrāvaka refers to the path of disciples who achieve enlightenment by listening to the teachings. Pratyekabuddhas, or solitary realizers, attain enlightenment on their own, without a teacher. The Bodhisattva path is about aspiring to achieve enlightenment to help all beings. Each path represents a different approach and level of dedication. The Lotus Sutra later reveals that these paths converge into the one Buddha vehicle. Pretty deep, huh?
Okay, so there's an explanation. I'm going to stop here, and I'll read the rest of the second chapter in the next video. Remember to, if you haven't already, get a copy the Burton Watson Lotus Sutra and read it along with me. You can also go online. I'm going to post the link to the Lotus Sutra online. Save the trees if you want to save some trees. And you can go in. Second chapter, expedient means. Next time I'll pick up from right there. Remember to like and subscribe. Thank you for listening. My name is Antoine. Welcome to my Dharma path.